Abyss of Legends Easy Path Guide. Yes, indeed, that's what this video is all about. Just to give you my quick perspective of this, there were a few mistakes that I made when I did my Abyss run, and as well as a few things that I prefer personally to do than others wouldn't say to go down the route of. So my personal perspective from this was, I went in this very much case, I rushed into it because I needed Thronebreaker quickly, the title. So I decided to kind of go in, but at the same time I didn't have a huge amount of stash, and I would say and would recommend, if you want to limit your unit spent, is to have a larger amount of stash. When I talk about stash, I'm talking about revives, I'm talking about units, I'm talking about health potions, and just general things like boosts as well that are going to help you just have that little fighting edge. And as well, we're going to talk about some other quick tips very quickly, and then we're going to be talking about some other stuff from champion interactions and fights, and finally looking at some team options. Now, if you want a full rundown of me doing those fights, then you can go and check out the link in the description. It'll take you to the stream. But as well, this video is going to serve the purpose of helping out players that are considering doing their first run, and as well looking at options. It's not just about Aegon, because a lot of the time it's like you need Aegon for a lot of this. So we're going to talk about different options that don't involve and do involve. So I'm just going to put some quick tips up at the moment. They're going to be up there. So have a stash of 100 level 1 revives. That's a bit kind of ambitious, but it just depends. Are you willing to go into a big unit stash, or are you not? And also have health potions. A lot of that can be achieved by doing things like solo events, those daily 22-hour solo events. Hold off on level ups. Hold off on arena grind. Also hold off on event questing, because that will be good elements of getting those 22-hour revives and health potions, and as well units that come from that. So it's a good opportunity. Have a unit stash if you're not thinking about this, by doing a grind for some of these kind of things like level 1 health potions and such like, of about 5,000 to 6,000 units. Seems excessive, but at the same time, always over exert yourself for grinded units, because you don't know if you're going to make mistakes. And that's the thing, mistakes happen. The game can have a lot of dropped inputs. Your Wi-Fi may be playing up. Loads of variables you need to consider, but at the same time, maybe start it. And don't do this in one day, because it will just fry your mind. Do it over the space of 2 days. That's what I did. Actually, I think I did it over the space of 3 days. I think I started Sunday night, did it on a Monday, and then got incredibly bored with it and decided to pick it up again on the Tuesday. And that's the thing, it's quite laborious. It's not fun. Yes, okay, you can have 6-star rank 3 slaying it, but at the same time, if you're not doing that, then it can be very laborious. So that's something to bear in mind. Okay, one other thing to think about is when you're doing a champion choice, and we're talking about different types of teams, is looking at champions that do a quick amount of damage. The issue that you will have is you'll only have 240 hits to do as much damage as possible, providing that you keep up the aggression, and as well you're able to kind of just keep up the pace. Similar to something like Bane or any other kind of node, there is it's part of the challenger points, or challenger hits, is that you will find yourself losing those opportunities of hits. You'll see the little kind of the numbering going up. It goes past 120, goes up to 240. If it goes higher than that, it does cause an issue for you, because then you'll have to keep up the pressure as much as possible to make sure that you're maximizing those 240 hits that you can potentially do. This is why in times people have brought Heimdall, because when the enemy gets past at 240, it gets unblockable and unstoppable, both passives, which mean that you're going to have to just go, oh, I'm pretty much dead. That's what happens. You're pretty much KO'd at that point, unless you have champions that are able to quick into action, like Doom. If you're power controlling, you've gone into Seed by having Heimdall on the team, and we'll talk about Heimdall being on the team and off the team in a minute. But that's kind of like where the kind of thought process is there. Here's the thing as well, Masteries, like you can go to Suicide Masteries, but then there's a thing about a lot of players switch. I didn't do Suicide Masteries when I did my run. I didn't put on Willpower, and I didn't have anything in Mystic Dispersion, not a great amount. I think I had like 1 or maybe none. And that's the thing, like it's up to you how you play this. As I said, I did it without Willpower, without Mystic Dispersion. Will I change that in the future? Maybe. I don't really know if I kind of feel like I want to. I like Suicide Masteries, but at the same time I go for a long period of time not running them. But that is an option if you are interested in doing it with or without. I did it without, and I spent 4,400 units, and I didn't use a stash. I may have like 1 or 2 level 1 revives for the thing fight, and we'll talk about how that's a bit of a nightmare in a minute. But those are my quick tips. for the event. It's information's over there. So the question is, who are you fighting? That's the next thing. You can find a lot of the information from Abyss of Legends maps in the link in the description. So if you want them, go to link in the description. A lot of this stuff is done by Chronic and the great people over at on the Reddit. So this is the thing. The enemies that you're going to face off against will first of all start off with Thing, and then it will be a Mega Red. Then it will be Quake. Then it'll be Medusa, Mephisto, and Cat Marvel movie. Ghost, Iron Man Infinity War, then it's Joe Fixit, and then it's down here for Mordo, then it's down here for Venom the Duck, Howard the Duck, Hyperion, Champion, then you've got Cyclops, then you've got Loki, and then up the top you've got Aegon, and then you're going down to Invisible Woman, Cull Obsidian, and then finally the Collector. Now we will break down what these fights are all about and as well counters, so there's going to be several counters to use for this, and here's the thing. If you're using it with Aegon, you're going to be starting off against the Thing building combos. This may be an option. Falcon's another option. I've seen plenty of players use that, especially with taking down his rock stacks, Stealth Suit Spidey. Because again, this is all about as quick damage as possible. With the Thing fight, what you want to do with it is build the champion up to 15 rock stacks. Don't hit past that. But you have to try and it's difficult to get this kind of mindset in. And I had to learn this very quickly because I was just playing it like completely like idiotic. And that is that you smash into the champion as much as possible. You make sure they've got that bar of power there. So at 15, when Thing launches the special attack, it's going to mean that the stacks remove. He goes unblockable, throwing a special attack. And then you're doing rinse and repeat. So then build up to 15. Make sure he throws a special. It's easier said than done. It's not going to happen every single time. But you've got to build him to a point where he can throw a special attack at 15 or more rock stacks to go unblockable. So then you can then start again from building him up to rock stacks to 15, throw a special, unblockable. It's all gone, rinse and repeat. And as I said, this is very much easier said than done. But let's go over the champions and the different types of nodes. There's a link in the description as well to this here. This is the Abyss of Legends key of different types of nodes and abilities of the various characters. Done by Cracker, Habib, and Frosty. So shout out to those people. I've seen Frosty's name about a lot, so I think I've seen it in Arena as well. So yeah, here's the thing. Quite literally, the Thing has nothing on him. A Mega Red, which is your next fight. Where's a Mega Red there? A Mega Red has, for each bar of power by the defender, they trigger a passive fury for the duration of their special attacks, increasing their attack by 7.5%. Every critical hit by either champion in this fight increases the defender's power rate by 1% for the rest of the fight. Now, it's up to you how you want to play this. Any champion that does not throw a bleed effect would be very much effective against this. I really can't remember which champion I took against this. And maybe I was trying to build combos again with Aegon. And again, you don't have to use Aegon, but a lot of players use different things. You know, we're going to talk about teams in a minute. And, you know, Marcus, while I was doing my Abyss run, he was doing his. He used Cable for a lot of his fights, utilizing the Horseman synergy. But again, we'll talk about teams. And I've probably put a time code in the description where you can go and find out more about teams. But again, let's talk about fights. Quake is up next, and Quake constantly builds up Earthquake meters throughout the fight. When the Earthquake meter hits 100 hits, the attacker is instantly knocked out. Striking Quake with a critical hit reduces her Earthquake meter by 8, inflicting a bleed debuff. I think for this one I used Aegon, but I think I might have switched. I may have kind of like downed Aegon and was like, okay, for the first time, let's use Nick Fury. Let's see if I can shave off some damage. And I think that's what I did. I think at the time, just play best of what you want to play. It is 5.7 mil health, but you know, you do you if you're interested in whatever champion will be good for this. Medusa's your next fight. Gain an unstoppable buff every 30 seconds. Last 15 seconds. If you nullify a buff of the defender, reset the timer to trigger another unstoppable. Now, I think for this one, this was all about utilizing Dr. Doom. Symbiote Supreme does a similar job to this. Any mystic that deals with it, I don't know. I think it's Doom and it's Symbiote Supreme are the two key mystics for a lot of this stuff, especially from interactions with different characters. Not to say that you should or have to use those two mystics, but they are definitely some key mystics to take in. Mephisto's frustrating. Every 10 buffs that expire or are nullified on the attacker, place a Fate Seal debuff on them, nullifying their buffs. I think for this, it's best to have non-buffed science champions that interact well with Incinerate immunity. Two of the key ones that are always recommended are Human Torch and Void. Now, there are, and there probably will be loads in the future, so we'll try and do an updated guide to this, but those are the two key ones. Thank God. It's 2.6 million health for this. Next up is Cat Marvel movie. While her opponent is above 1.5 bars of power, Cat Marvel deals 300 energy damage per second to them. Every 15 seconds, both champions gain 10-second power flood buff. For this, it's just Dr. Doom, again, down to those mystics, Dr. Doom and Symbiote Supreme. With Ghost, each time the defender is struck while under the effect of the armor up buff, they gain a charge lasting indefinitely. At 10 charges, the defender steals all the attacker's current power. Tech champions are immune to the ability accuracy modification and nullify unless under the effect of armor break debuff at the start of the fight. Gain an armor up buff. To be honest, this is a very straightforward fight, and it doesn't seem like it's too much of an issue, especially if you're using champions like Dr. Doom or even Aegon. To be honest, I think I used Aegon for this. I just felt it was like just a better thing. As you're kind of building up those hits, and that's the key thing. You're building up hits for that champion to take on further champions down the line. But any champion will do against that fight. It's not just about saying it's one champion. You could use Nick Fury, for example. Yes, the champion may phase out some of the bleed effects you do, but it's still a case of ramping up that quick damage. If the enemy champion isn't moving quite so much, then it's still cool. Iron Man Infinity War. Each time the defender is struck while under the effect of an armor up buff, they gain a charge lasting indefinitely. To be honest, this champion was annoying. I can't remember 100% who I used for this. I think it was a case of just whatever's alive, just throw it at it. And I think I threw like everything at Iron Man Infinity War. More so, I think, for utilizing... I want to say Dr. Doom was good to a degree, but any champion that's ramping up damage, and yeah, you could say that dealing against auto block was all about trying to throw that SP1 of Nick Fury. There's a few factors in mind here to take this on, but I think there was a good combination of various champions on my team. But yeah, there's loads of options to take down. Iron Man Infinity War, I would say if you bring in Magneto as well, that's great. Hashtag metal, and that will be another champion we'll talk about in teams in a minute. Joe Fixit can be fine, but there are annoying things when it comes to the Gambler's Fate, I think it's called, his ability. So he can get like some stuff like just improvement of attack, as well like regeneration, which is annoying. I think I used Aegon for this one. I think Aegon is a pretty solid option to just taking down class advantage and all that. So yeah, that's one of the ones I used. But as well, something that's important is just push to SP2 as much as you possibly can, as the SP1 is just not, it's not all kinds of not nice. So yeah, maybe go into a block, maybe re-parry to then build up to an SP2. That's probably the best thing I can really say with that. Right, now to another frustration fight, and that's Mordo. Now for this one, yeah, difficult one. Anything is really going to have to do against Mordo. I believe I used Human Torch. It felt like that's more logical, so I used that against there. Champion's not throwing special attacks. That's a given at the moment. I don't know if like Kabam program Mordo to be the same way, but incredibly defensive. But yeah, they want you to suffer at the hands of this, and Human Torch is the best option. You could say that if you're keeping your distance and utilizing debuffs, then you can also have Void on your team. Void would do the same job. Any other champion on your team is relatively good for this. Yeah, you could use Aegon, especially where you are with combos. If you're not having a 200 signature version, and it's all about building combos if you've not built it up so far. Next up is Venom the Duck. I don't think Venom the Duck is too much of an issue, especially if you've got Symbiote Supreme and you've got Dr. Doom or any other champion that would deal with situations of gaining buffs. Like staggering with Dr. Doom is pretty great, and as well Symbiote Supreme. Now, this is the thing. On that route, there's also Howard the Duck. And Howard the Duck is a little frustrating if you don't understand the way that the champion works, and which it took me a little while to really understand this. But right down the bottom here, we've got Howard begins the fight with 30 passive indestructible effects, attacks that would critically hit, remove. It's not really about that. It's about the regeneration. When the champion gets to certain points, he gets a huge flood of regeneration. I think it's once per fight, or once kind of like in the cycle, or twice per fight in the cycle. I took a little while to remember this. Now I could use something like Dr. Doom to suppress, but I believe at the time I used Aegon to go into an SP3. Going into the SP3, it allows to get a stun effect. The stun effect suppresses the regeneration, and that's what I ended up using. If you watch the stream back, you'll be able to see that as well, just the way that fight played out. But that was a good little fight and interaction. Right at the top is Hyperion. Gain an unstoppable buff every 30 seconds at last. This is where stagger comes in. If you've got stagger, and as well you've got buff suppression and stuff with the way that Symbiote Supreme works, it's really relatively effective. And I would say with class advantage, this is a great little time. You'll have a great time between Venom the Duck, Howard the Duck, and Hyperion. You know, those are by far some of my most fun fights, and the champion as well. But we'll go on about that in a minute. Hyperion 2.65 mil, great. Not too much to take him down, but you know, it's all about stagger. Hyperion with Dr. Doom on my team. Dr. Doom versus his champion was so much fun. So I would say that's just the best one. We need to power suppress as much as possible. So power control. The champion is the next fight. Gain an unstoppable buff every 30 seconds. Same principle. Again, you've got Symbiote Supreme on your team. You've got a power control champion. I mean, it's class advantage. Deals with buffs. What could be better? You know, would Morningstar be an option to kind of take into Abyss of Legends? I don't know. I don't know if that would really be something. It's not been something overly tested, and we'll talk about several teams tested against this, but you definitely need one of those two mystics, Symbiote Supreme or Dr. Doom. Do dual class crystals to try and get him. I would recommend that. Now on the L of that path is Cyclops. Very, very weird, and it's difficult to get this down. Cyclops has two modes, overcharged mode and spread shot mode. He will begin the fight in spread shot mode. After launching a special attack, he will switch to the other mode. Spread shot. During the special attack, the attacker cannot use the dexterity mastery. They suffer minus 100% ability accuracy for all evade and auto block effects. However, the attacker's parry mastery provides 100% perfect. From what I gather, it's down to, you have to remember color schemes. Now, if you've watched the stream back, you'll know during that I came up with this little tune, which was green, parry, yellow, swipe. Green, parry, yellow, swipe. Green, parry, yellow, swipe. So the green is the spread shot, and the yellow swipe, or yellow swiping, is the overcharged. So green, parry, yellow, swipe. So that's how I remembered it from seeing Cyclops on the right, and then kind of the movement. The champion will get a special attack like just like there, just like that, and then you're just like, right, well, what do I do here? And if it's green, comes with a spread shot, you go a parry. So you're parrying at the same time. You've got to click down. As soon as you see the beam, it's about a beam, you go down. So hopefully the parry mastery comes up and it works effectively. And then with the other one, it's just you have to evade as much as you can. Next up is Loki. Now, if you're familiar with things like long distance relationship, we won't kind of like bat an eyelid with this. Standing near Loki constantly drains the opponent's power. If the attacker stays at 0 power for more than 4 seconds, they take a massive burst of direct damage equal to 35% of their max power or max health. So I think with that, it's just a case of try not to get too near to Loki, and as much as you can, don't throw SP1, don't throw SP2s, just throw SP1s and build past power bars before you throw specials. One thing that I learned very quickly with Aegon was just build up past an SP2. If I throw an SP2, I take a risk. If I throw an SP1, I should be fine. But that's the thing, you just have to understand that. Don't go down to 0 power. Next up is the Aegon path. That's nothing really to be worried about, especially as the attacker has minus 100% offensive ability actually accepted during special attacks. So that's you kind of like covered. I would say SP2 of Aegon is usually fine, but you know, any champion really do, but I'd say, you know, Aegon and Aegon action is pretty fun. Then with Invisible Woman, for that fight, I did utilize Nick Fury. I was at the part of the stream where I wasn't really kind of feeling too great, but you know, you got to plow in as much as possible. When the attacker or the defender fill a bar of power, the attacker is inflicted with a power sting passive for 15 seconds, which consumes itself. I would say that the best thing to do is use Nick Fury, especially if with the SP1. But do watch out about the power sting thing. Like if you can get ramped up, Aegon's another option to take this down. Yeah, Nick Fury probably all the way with this fight. And then Cull Obsidian before we go on to the Collector. Cull Obsidian doesn't really have anything too fun going for it. Oh, that's right, I tell a lie, it does. Utilizing champions to ramp up like Symbiote Supreme and Dr. Doom. Cull Obsidian's persistent charges are set to max of start of the fight. Additionally, he gains plus 500% buff duration and buff potency for his personal buffs. However, one of his buffs is nullified. He also loses 1% of max health. Yeah, so have fun. This is probably the most fun fight there with interactions with Dr. Doom and Symbiote Supreme. As soon as you take a buff, boom! He's going to lose a lot of health points. It's a very, very fun fight. And then finally with the Collector, I would say this is where players use certain champions to the max. Like Aegon is probably one of the best options for this. It's hard to think about anything that's not Aegon, but there are options, and we're going to talk about teams in a minute, especially with interactions. So there's loads of things. 70% offensive. The collector gains a permanent boost to critical rating. You know, at the end of the day, it's difficult to avoid some of the special attacks, but this is where your great amount of units comes in to spend, or like revives and stuff. The collector special attacks cannot miss, be evaded, or auto-blocked. They also ignore 25% of the opponent's block proficiency, so not good. And then 40% immunity, and then 25% blitz. And this is the point where I don't know if you can really kind of say what you've got to intercept when it comes to the last 10%. It's just when the champion gets more aggressive and is more frustrating. So yeah, do look out for that. And this is where all your units are going to go. Massive amounts of damage needs to be outputted from different champions, but I think let's talk about teams and also some other things that are going to be helpful. Now on screen at the moment are 10 teams. Now I'll probably put this information somewhere, either in the link in the description, or there'll be something, maybe this will be on my Discord. But this is the thing about 10 teams. These are teams that have been tried by the community, not just myself, so community members have used some of these teams. And my team was, I used Nick Fury, Aegon, Dr. Doom, Heimdall, and Human Torch. I put Heimdall in the team to intercede, so when it looked like I was going to lose all my damage because it's past 240 hits, and I'm going to die very quickly, at least I get that chance to put in a little bit more damage. But that's the thing, it's not needed. You don't have to go down that route, it's just handy. So further things, you can replace Human Torch for Void, and that's the team 2. Also, you can exchange a few things like Symbiote Supreme. I'm just giving you some options, and I put that in the key down here. The third team would be without Heimdall, and that's Nick Fury, Aegon, Dr. Doom, Quake, Human Torch. That has been used by a community member. Nick Fury, Aegon, Dr. Doom, Falcon, and Human Torch. Mainly Falcon is there. I've seen people use Falcon to get past the Thing. Maybe they don't like the Thing fight. Maybe they see that it's a waste of units to go against it. And that's an option because Falcon interacts very well with the rock stacks. So there's a potential option, but there's no Heimdall. But it could save you some units if you're not prepared to spend on the Thing fight. Corvus team. There's two Corvus teams, but there's a third one technically if you kind of count the Beardo team. It just depends on you using as the lead. So, Dr. Doom, Human Torch, Nick Fury, Archangel, Corvus Glaive. I've seen this team used. You know, I think I even pulled up some footage, which I was going to refer to, that had Archangel in the team as well. Not as a lead champion, but just there to kind of output a bit more damage. And there are options there. Human Torch is largely brought in against the fights of Mephisto and any kind of Mystic champion. The same thing could be said with Void. That's going to be your choice. Dr. Doom or Symbiote Supreme. That's another note down here. Symbiote Supreme is a logical swap for a Mystic like Dr. Doom. So those are some options. I've seen a Corvus team here. Corvus being the lead with Wasp, Havoc, Ghost and Longshot. Ghost makes sense because it does a lot of damage. Wasp is an assistant to that, but as well, like having Longshot in the team. It's just all about kind of good damage quickly. Because that's the thing, 240 hits is all you've got before those challenger points or challenger things expire. And then you've got Beardo, Cap Infinity War, Nick Fury, Human Torch, Symbiote Supreme, Corvus. You could say that Corvus is the lead here, but Cap Infinity War does add something to it. It just means there could be a few tricky fights to go up against that. Some ways you could build up and do extensive amounts of damage, especially off that SP2. And I think that's why that particular champion is the lead champion there. So parry, heavy, 5 of those charges. I couldn't think of what they were called for a minute, but yeah, that's how it rolls. Domino team. I don't know if I recommend this one. If you got Suicide Masteries on, yes, to a degree. Archangel with it for an assistance, and Dr. Doom and Void being the improvements there to situations. But Red Hulk could be swapped for Red Hulk could be removed, and like another champion put in. But if this is all about using the parry heavy method of the Incinerates, then yes, all for it, and especially with Suicide Masteries. But then this is one of those iffy teams for a lot of players. I've got Marcus's team. So if you don't know, Marcus was the other person I did Abyss of Legends. We kind of did it in parallel. We used two very different teams. I used Aegon Team 1. He used Apocalypse Team. And Apocalypse Team was all about having Cable as the lead champion. A 6-star Cable, which I believe was Awakened, and as well, I think it was rank 2 as a 6-star. And that was doing a lot of degeneration damage. Very, very effective, especially with Apocalypse synergy. Did he use Apocalypse? No, because it was a lower starage rating. But at the same time, you could use it as an assistant to do a bit of damage. It's not going to be excessive amounts of damage, but it's still, you know, if you've got a 6-star version of Apocalypse, it's going to do something. Also, having Magneto on the team would be a good option. I believe you had Magneto as well, especially with a lot of hashtag metal like Iron Man Infinity War, and especially having other things like Human Torch and Doctor Doom in that team. Doctor Doom is a cool option. Symbiote Supreme, similar job, but I like Doctor Doom personally a little bit more. And Human Torch definitely for going against those Mystics. A Stealthy team. Now I have seen this as well, using Stealth suits Spidey as the lead, a Mega Red as well as an assistant champion, especially with SP1s, and as well building up to things like the Death Field and the extensive damage that that champion can output, with the usual assistance from Nick Fury, Human Torch and Doctor Doom. I think Nick Fury, Human Torch and Doctor Doom, it's difficult to find replacements, especially from an effectiveness and damage perspective. But still, these are 10 teams on screen at the moment. Some with Aegon and some without. There we go, that has been the Abyss of Legends initial clear guide. I will look to do an exploration version at a later date, as I'm going to be doing the exploration in January once I get some new internet built into the house, and then we've got the kind of all the content from December out the way. Then I can sit down and I can just do loads of streams of Abyss of Legends paths, and I've got the units for it. So that's the thing, I'm just going to prepare for that. So yeah, thanks for the support, and as well, make sure to catch some of the content, which will be around here, and also the guide section for any guides on the game. And I'll see you all very soon. Bye-bye.